Howdy, this is Florian from LifeScienceMentor.com, and today I'm talking about something personal. I have a list of the 14 people that had the most impact on my life so far. And you might think to yourself, well, what do I care about Florian's 14 mentors, right? Um, well, that's true. I also hesitated for a while to publish this because such a list is pretty personal and I honestly didn't feel very comfortable in sharing all that. However, I changed my mind into doing it because I believe there's something to learn for everyone. And even though you don't know the people or don't know some of the people I'm talking about, and you haven't made the same experiences that I had, I believe it teaches us valuable lessons about what it means to have a mentor, right? And so, first of all, some people on my list, they may be interesting for you as well. So I encourage you to look into those people, especially those that are fellow bloggers, right? They have good blogs. They have shown a willingness to support me in one way or the other. So those are generous people, and or they have a very good product that I can really recommend because it has helped me. So others, for example, when I talk about my friends and family members, then you can also think about maybe ways that you can appreciate your parents or your grandparents or friends in a very similar way that I've done, right? So maybe there's some information for you to learn as well. And um, and number three, maybe you even identify with some of the principles and values that I've discovered over the time of my life, my long life of almost 40 years. And maybe some of the thoughts that I had, um, maybe they are some inspiration for you as well. So, with that being said, let's get started. So, first of all, my grandmother, very important person for my life, and not only because she was there for me and understood me, we had fun together and we were on the same level in our philosophical worldview. But she was we shared some kind of a more cynical, more disillusioned worldview. And there was one thing that she told me before she died in 2008, and that was never, Florian, she said, never become bitter. Never become bitter. As disillusioned as you may be, never become bitter about the world outside because life is too precious and too fantastic to live it. So she worked her whole life. There was not a single day in which she was unemployed. She lived through Second World War. Started as a kindergartner first, then went on to have a position in the Federal Job Administration program in Germany, and she was loving her books, and she was always content with sitting at home and just reading her books. And that is an admirable lifestyle as well because she didn't want much more, but she still kept herself active intellectually. So, and when I visited her, it was always easygoing with her. It was not a problem at all. We could sit and talk. We could sit and play a board game. We could sit and watch TV together. Whatever it was, we had lots of fun, and it was always easygoing. It was pleasurable times. Number two, my friend Ripley. So, similar to my grandma, we share same political positions and same humor, same lifestyle. We're both Simpsons fans. That connects you. He has worked for over 2 decades in the mortgage and financial industry, and he contributed with 3 blog posts on LifeScienceMentor.com. I've linked to them in the corresponding article to this video. Um, he's a true friend in a way that he will never shy away from giving advice, even if it's inconvenient, right? He also introduced me to the mentality of an entrepreneur. So he always worked as a contractor, but since I always worked as an employee, there's a difference in mindset, right? So as an employee, you go in and you expect to always have the same pay. As a contractor, you work for a certain you work for a certain amount of hours and get paid for that. But he was even more than that. He was basically something, or he is basically an entrepreneur. Um, and he's a salesperson, so he sold insurance policies for a commission, and he has a very, very good grip on how to understand people and how to connect to people, as I find like a lot of salespeople have. And without him, I would have always embraced the lifestyle of a lifelong employee. I would have been a good kid growing up in all the governmental corporational system. Always keep my head down. Always do what's asked of me, and I would have never started to venture out and basically discovering the whole manosphere online and starting to think about different ways to step out of my career that I started 20 years ago, and right now be here and think about different ways to design my future. That would have been never possible had it not for continuous advice I got from him. So basically, he is a very important person in my life, and I'm glad that I still have contact with him, even though he lives in Germany. I still visit him at least once a year, or try to, and yeah, it's a valuable friendship, really, really important for me. Number three, and here we get to the to fellow bloggers that you might know as well. So number three is Mike Cernovich from Danger and Play. And I don't remember how I stumbled upon his blog, but I think it was from looking at goodlookingloser.com, and he had mentioned some blog posts from Mike Cernovich. And I remember one of the first blog posts on Danger and Play dealt with passive income, and I gave a comment, rather quick comment, and I was talking about something that I just had heard about and just talking about that. Hey, that website is really cool. Check it out. And then he replied and asked, well, okay, what have you learned from this website? And then I realized, oops, I haven't done anything from that website. The website just seemed cool. So I wrote him an email and said, look, I'm sorry, my comment was a little premature, and so on and so forth. I was like very, very shy. I didn't want to screw anything up with people. So when I first commenting on any blog, I worried that I'll be just a troll who just espouses some nonsense that he heard somewhere. So I kind of apologized to Mike for giving a premature comment, and he was kind enough to just feature our little dialogue on one of his podcasts there. And I found that very remarkable, because even though he was already an established blogger, and I was somebody who just came out of nowhere and did a comment, and even though he initially disagreed maybe with my comment, he just went into a dialogue and he asked and he talked to me. And this treatment I will never forget. So that way, yeah, I mean, I became sort of a fan of that blog from that point on, just because the person who had the blog treated me like a real human being and not just like some anonymous commenter. Very important lesson here. So I strive to do that with every one of you who is commenting on my blog here as well. I will reply to every comment, and I will try to put as much energy as I can to you know to pay your comment justice, right? And that's just something that I find is really important, because all we do here online is basically having a discussion, and it means basically you know, taking those serious, that even those that disagree with you, same as those that agree with you, treat them well and be there for them, and then that way we deepen friendship and build connections. or the other way around, build connections and deepen friendships. But you know, that was the take-home message I got from Mike. And he now has, with his 2 last books, Gorilla Mindset and Essays on Masculinity, great books. And Gorilla Mindset even has a workbook aspect to it, so you can really incorporate the lessons from that book into your life. So Mike is a good guy, and I owe a lot to him. Number 4 is Chris Deudis from goodlookingloser.com. I got to know him about 2 different ways. So I have to go a little back. In 2013, I joined a dating seminar by one of the dating companies, pickup artist companies out there. And then the following summer, I would go out to bars like once or twice a week, hit on girls on the street, and I got some dates and some success there. And I was very active on discussion boards on the internet. And then I stumbled upon one video by Chris. Basically, he said that most of the discussion boards online about dating are bullshit. Because the people that are discussing there, you don't really know who they really are. They could be like, just like in this one South Park episode, right? If you've seen that, there's one episode where they all play World of Warcraft, and they are mercilessly beaten by this level 10,862 advanced player. And then you see that advanced player and you think, wow, that must be a genius. And this is just a guy sitting with some pizza and a fat belly in his basement, and just like typing on the keyboard and having some tricks to advance the levels in World of Warcraft. And with all these dating discussion boards, you also don't really know who is commenting there, right? And Chris's point was, when you criticize somebody for something he said to a girl when he tried to get her phone number or anything like that, you don't know how this person looked. I mean, if that person was a fat slob or really super skinny, then and had bad fashion sense, then the reason why he didn't get a phone number was not because he said the wrong words, but because his whole appearance was off, right? So there's so many things that go into human interaction that a message board is a bad way to solve that and to give advice. And I sort of like accepted that, but didn't go further into, and kind of forgot about him until I learned from another discussion board where I was also a member that somebody really said, "Good looking loser, Chris Deudis, great site." And so then I went to the site with that sort of like social proof. I knew that Good Looking Loser must be good because A, I sort of agreed already with Chris when I saw him on an earlier video, and B, this guy from the forum who commented there, whose judgment I was valuing, had made a positive comment about Good Looking Loser. So I was very open to receiving, very open to look at the webpage, goodlookingloser.com. And I think that's one of the most important ways to build connections. It's really not so much about, if you have a webpage, it's really not so much about increasing SEO or exposing your message, marketing. That's all important. But what you really have to do, I think, is you have to build those personal connections. And you can take like 90 days until you find someone who's really vibing with you and building that good personal connection. But really, you need like 1 or 2, maybe a handful of great personal connections with people that have swagger in a certain part of a community, and then they can direct large swaths of people to your side. And there's no telling when that happens. It can go fast, or it can take 5 years probably, right? Maybe not that long, but it can take a while. And the only thing you can do is build connections as deep as you can. I think that's what I learned from Chris. Experience with Chris's video and Chris's website. And this website actually did 2 great things for me. One was I was still rather shy, talking to people on the street, approaching women. So I took Good Looking Loser's Approach Anxiety program. And that is based on exposure therapy. So you go small baby steps first, ask for directions and time before you eventually then ask for a phone number and for a date. So that being said, some time in the middle of that program that I went through and approached and applied and approached a lot of women. At one point there was this message: just do what you really want to do. And that was a wonderful message, because I was suffering under a psychological affection called imposter syndrome. Basically, I was in science. I had a science career since 20 years, and I was feeling sometimes like a fraud. I was getting into good labs, I was getting in contact with great scientists, and all I thought was, that can't be. I probably was only lucky. So I felt like a fraud being there. And then doing this approach anxiety program, all of a sudden, it wasn't about how do I get people to judge me best. It was all about, am I doing something that's fun to me? And that was looking at from a whole different angle. And the imposter syndrome was gone, because all of a sudden, all that matters was, are you doing what you really want to do? Yes. If that's so, then you're on the right way. And if you think about it, there's really no reason to let anyone judge us, right? We're not there to win the judgment of some teachers. We go through life to do what we really want to do and to figure out what we really want to do. Not to figure out a way to please some goalkeepers. That's very important, and that's what I learned. And he also he also advertised and advised on kratom, which is a herbal supplement that gives you a kind of boost in focus and energy. And I tried kratom and I like it a lot. So that's the second thing that he did for me. So goodlookingloser.com has done a lot of good things for me. Number 5, Victor Pride with boldanddetermined.com. That's another one of these big websites in the manosphere. I think I got the recommendation from goodlookingloser.com here as well. And Victor Pride has a program on daily discipline. It's called 30 Days of Discipline. And you learn to get up early in the morning, take cold showers, do 100 push-ups and more per day, and have a disciplined structure to your day. And back in the beginning of 2014, that discipline structure was somehow lacking. So I went through 30 days of discipline, and that helped me a lot. So basically, Victor Pride, boldanddetermined.com, has also helped me a lot and influenced me a lot. And number 4, I would really like to mention the whole manosphere as some collective that has helped me. There's a lot of blogs there from mainly men, some women who try to find their way through life, and who don't want to live a life where you just go through the career ladder in a hamster wheel, and then you just go through the corporate route and do what you're supposed to do, and do what is good behavior, be a model citizen, all these kind of shit that pervades society nowadays. But it's about finding your own way. And there are a lot of very helpful people, like Serge from KidsStrangelove.com introduced me to Know Nothing November, which was a very important monthly program for me to get rid of some of my vices in 2014. And Remy Shepard had a blog for some time, and he was the first person to have me on a podcast. And Matt Forney was actually one of the first one who just followed me on Twitter, which seems slow, right? Yeah, what do I give about one person following me on Twitter? But it was kind of huge, because there were people who were willing to take a leap of faith and kind of trust in me, even though I was just starting. And that was very important to me. And I also have to mention Aaron Clarey, whose book just blew me away. I mean, his website is Captain Capitalism. And his message is that one living a life that focuses on what's really important to you. Living a minimalist lifestyle, that you don't depend on making a lot of money to satisfy some status. to be a productive member of, to be some sort of like important member of society. No, do your work, get paid, and then care for people that are close to you. So, because your limited finite time of life, is important to share with other people, right? And this was a very human message, and him and others, they are hugely important. And I just, yeah, in this point, just wanted to say thank you to the Manosphere for helping me on my way so far. Number 7 is a gentleman by the name of Leon, and he's a good friend of mine. He was basically leading the dating seminar that I talked about earlier. I took at the beginning of 2013, and he always has my back, always done things for me, sent me good stuff, answered my questions, and what he did for me was basically that seminar was the first night that I was going out, basically with strangers to a bar, right? Not to celebrate the birthday of a friend, but just on my own. And I talked to girls, and I had given up on one girl, and he pushed me back. So then I actually asked him for the phone number. I got my first phone number from talking to a girl in the bar. That was important to me. From now on, I knew that I can make a connection with other people if I just do that more on my own. If I just go out and practice on my own. So that was important. So therefore, Leon has an important part in my life as well. Number 8, we come to my parents. So first, my mother. There's one sentence that I'll never forget. So sometimes you say you want to do this, this, and that, and then other people say, oh, you're not supposed to do that. And to that she said, oh, you know what? They say nobody has done before what you want to do. Guess it's time for them to learn. And that was such a great statement. This was like, really don't give a fuck about what the other people think you should do. Just go your own way. And I'll never forget that sentence. Never ever. So that's why my mother, despite from providing a loving home, that's what she has done for me. And my father actually was a reverend working for the German Protestant Church. And basically the German church is run by the state. So basically it's almost like it's a government-like institution. So if you are a member of the church, you pay 10%, additional 10% of your income tax as church tax. And so what happens is that this church has a huge blown up apparatus, and it's basically a big behemoth or a big corporation that fatally doesn't value people well enough, right? But church is all about people, but the majority of church structure is about administration. And when they wanted to, for economic reasons, fuse some churches, some church parishes, one of which my father was in, he pushed back. And even though he couldn't prevent it from happening in his older parish, his efforts were noticed by a neighboring parish, which lobbied for him to join them. And so he prevented that parish from being fused with another parish. So he was basically resisting the efforts of his employer. And I thought that was really heroic. And for that, he's a big role model. So he didn't want to have a big political career within the church, but he wanted to make, he is there for the people in his parish. He fights for them, right? So he doesn't give a crap about what the church administration wants him to do. As far as he could, he was always going out of his way to build connections with the people that he had to look after, right? In the very original definition. And the result, well, when there was his birthday, he had his living room were full with, he just said, come over if you want, I have some coffee. And like, last time I looked, 20, 25 people were in his living room and celebrating his birthday with him, just coming by spontaneously in the morning. And that happens when you put connections to other people above all else. right? So if you give and even take some inconvenience for your own career, you will be rewarded with a lot of trust and a lot of connections. And in that case, he'll always be a role model and always stay a role model for me. Number 10 is a gentleman by the name of Cameron Adair, or Cam Adair. So I recently learned about Cam Adair from an interview on Mike Cernovich's podcast. Cam went through a gaming addiction with video games, and then he freed himself from that, and he talks about his journey in this podcast. And then he has built a new community called Game Quitters, and this community is like basically a discussion board of like-minded people. And he is sort of like the mentor there, and gives advice. And everyone in the community is helping each other. And it's a lot of them are kids that are helping each other overcoming their video game addiction, right? And that's a that's a great community. And there are great people in there. I joined the forum, even though I'm not addicted to games, but there's one reason: because if you want to get rid of an addiction, video games or smoking or sweets, anything, you need to search for a new purpose of what you do, because the addiction used to be your purpose before. Winning video games, that was purpose of your life when you were addicted. But now you've gotten rid of video games or of smoking or whatever addiction you have. And now you have to give your life, you have to fill the void with your own activities and your own purpose. And because I was coming off like 20 years of working in science and university and never really thinking much of, sort of always staying in the career path and just like one step in front of the next, never really thinking about if the reasons why I went into science are still the same reasons that keep me in science. I was never really thinking about my own purpose. And I'm starting to do that now. And one of the reasons why I've started this blog, LifeScienceMentor.com, right? So I've also joined the Game Quitters community and to develop my own sense of purpose. And it's a great community. I met Cam in person once in New York. Great dude. Check it out if you're interested. He is certainly someone who I know only very recently, but already has influenced my life in big ways. Number 11 is my high school chemistry teacher. So I took advanced level classes in high school, and as Aaron Clarey says, like there may be a handful of teachers in high school that are really good, high school and college, right? And he was one of them, Peter Hart. And his lessons were like really tough. I mean, I had 11th grade advanced placement chemistry with him, and it was hard because he didn't ask just simple textbook questions. He always asked questions that were coming from a bigger problem, and you really had to think to solve these problems. And basically through that approach, that no bullshit approach, when we got another teacher in 12th and 13th grade, all of us went through Peter Hart's 11th grade chemistry. We basically coasted through 12th and 13th grade because we were already basically that advanced from the principles that he taught us in the 11th grade. That may sound like bragging or hyperbolic, but it really is not. It was really, there was new facts to learn in 12th and 13th grade, but nothing really new to understand, right? So you had the best theory, and he also recommended the best books. And even in university, when I went to thermodynamics, Peter Hart's lessons were still helping me back in university. And that was great, influential teacher. I only wish I'd listened to his advice a little better. He said, kids, what you should do for a job, you learn chemical engineering, because then you can build plants that process chemicals. And imagine you can drive with your car and just point out to your passengers, look, that company, that power plant, that refinery, I built that. And the second suggestion was to learn brewery studies in Germany and then open a brewery in Singapore. Sounds crazy, but he was really not joking. And yes, you can study brewery studies in Germany. I think Germany is the only country where you can actually study the art of making beer. And with that in hand, you could just like start building your own company based on in a market that doesn't have what you can offer. See what kind of lesson that is? Choose if you are thinking about going to college and you can really not be convinced of doing anything else but going to college. My advice, and mind you, if you want to have real, very, very deep advice on going to college, you should check out Aaron Clary's Captain Capitalism and Asshole Consulting. He deals with these questions all the time and has really good advice to give. But if you would ask me directly, should I go to college, and you're really hell-bent on going to college, then I would say, one way to still get use out of college is study a subject that is in demand, and study a subject that is in demand maybe even in a different country. Like brewery studies in Germany. Germany doesn't need more breweries, but Singapore just might, right? So you study something and then you go where the market demands your service. We learned that lesson all in 11th grade chemistry with that teacher, and that's why he's on that list. Number 12 was my PhD advisor, Carl Philipp Heisenberg. And because he had the exact right mix of helping hand and efficiency, right? So I remember when I started, not all the experiments were easy to do. So he helped me. He personally mentored me for like 4 to 5, maybe even 8 weeks. He prepared the specimen. I had to do microscopy of zebrafish embryos. They are very fragile, so he helped me prepare them until I really could do it on my own. And and then he always let me do, or us really, all of us in his group, he let us do our own suggestions. And then once a week, or once a week, we sat together, and he would push the project further forward. And he would say, and by the way, having new ideas once a week is actually pretty amazing. So he would listen, and then he would think with us how our ideas would fit in the efficient and the most efficient plan to move forward with the project. And that is really best of both worlds. You want to plan, right? You don't want to run blindly ahead, but you also don't want to plan too long, right? You want to plan and see, you have a blueprint of moving forward efficiently, and then you want to put in, and then you want to have your ideas and see how these ideas fit into that concept. And that's how I was efficiently able to send the first manuscript in for publishing. At the end of the first year, I was in the lab. That's pretty fast, thanks to his help. And so he'll always be a big role model of efficiency and getting things done. And I haven't had any group leader surpassing him in that respect. It's really good. Well then, the 2 last points. Number 13 is my friend and roommate Boris Pfander, who was roommate with me when I studied biochemistry in Hanover. We were in the same class, and he basically introduced me to several friends that still play a role in my life, like Ripley Schlauch, that I mentioned at the very beginning of this list. And we also shared our passion for Star Trek. We had great Star Trek sessions in the afternoon. He now is a group leader in Munich, Germany, where he studies DNA damage and cell proliferation, which is very important concepts in the development of cancer and the cure of cancer. And then the last person I want to mention is my friend Joachim, who I know from orchestra studies a long time. He plays violin and viola. And he worked in New York for 2 years as a postdoc in psychology. So we were roommate for 12 months, and he introduced me to a lot of other musicians in New York. So that was important. And now he's a psychology professor in Salzburg, Vienna, in Europe, and he tries to understand the way humans make decisions when the objects that they decide on are far away and very general, or when the objects are really there, very closely in front of them. And that is basically, those are my 14 people that have basically worked as mentors and important influencer in various times of my life. And I apologize if I've talked to you and I've forgotten you on that list. There's so many more people that have influenced me. I've enjoyed the conversation with so many more people, and I've enjoyed like hanging out with so many more people. But I mean, the list has to end in some way, right? So those were the 14 I chose, and I may choose more people in the future. Who knows? For now, thank you very much for staying with me. Thanks for listening. Have a great start in the next week. Today's the first Sunday of Advent, so this is really when in Germany officially the Advent holiday started. I'm excited. Next weekend, a friend comes visiting me. Maybe we can have some mulled wine. And what more is there for me to say? But thank you again for listening. Leave me a comment. I answer every one of them. If you enjoyed this video, like it on YouTube. So the more likes I get, the more Google ranks this video up, the more people get exposed to it and can join our movement, our community, and I can interact with you, right? So, all the best, and see you tomorrow.